They slowly contaminated your body, and in many cases, they were fatal. Lepers were separated from family and friends and confined outside the camp. Now, since priests were responsible for the health of the camp, it was their duty to expel and readmit lepers. If someone's leprosy appeared to go away, only the priest could decide if that person was truly cured. Leprosy is often used in the Bible as an illustration of sin because sin is contagious and destructive and actually leads to separation. Excuse me. Okay, let's start reading and see what happens here. Can you guys see the bottom? Yeah, good. All right. The Lord gave Moses and Aaron these regulations. If any of you have a sore on your skin, or a boil, or an inflammation which could develop into a dreaded skin disease, you shall be brought to the Aaronite priest. The priest shall examine the sore, and if the hairs in it have turned white, and the sore appears to be deeper than the surrounding skin, it is a dreaded skin disease, and the priest shall pronounce you unclean. But if the sore is white and does not appear to be deeper than the skin around it, and the hairs have not turned white, the priest shall isolate you for 7 days. The priest shall examine you again on the seventh day, and if in his opinion the sore looks the same and has not spread, he shall isolate you for another 7 days. The priest shall examine you again on the seventh day, and if the sore has faded and has not spread, he shall pronounce you ritually clean. It is only a sore. You shall wash your clothes and be ritually clean. But if the sore spreads after the priest has examined you and pronounced you after he pronounced you clean, you must appear before the priest again. The priest will examine you again, and if it has spread, he shall pronounce you unclean. It is a dreaded skin disease. Some of you are wondering, why are the priests examining the bodies of people? Are they doctors, physicians? Not necessarily, but they played the part of a physician. They couldn't cure it. They couldn't recommend what to do with it. Most people applied olive oil and other things to their skin diseases, but the priest was only supposed to say if you're clean or unclean. There were physicians in some manner, but they could not heal you. Let's continue. If any of you have a dreaded skin disease, you shall be brought to the priest, who will examine you. If there is a white sore on your skin which turns the hairs white and is full of pus, it is a chronic skin disease. The priest shall pronounce you unclean. There is no need to isolate you because you are obviously unclean. If the skin disease spreads and covers you from the head to the foot, the priest shall examine you again. If he finds that it actually has covered the whole body, he shall pronounce you ritually clean. If your whole skin has turned white, you are ritually clean. But from the moment an open sore appears, you are unclean. The priest shall examine you again, and if he sees an open sore, he shall pronounce you unclean. An open sore means a dreaded skin disease, and you are unclean. But when the sore heals and becomes white again, you shall go to the priest, who will examine you again. If the sore has turned white, you are ritually clean, and the priest shall pronounce you clean. If any of you have a boil that has healed, and if afterwards a white swelling or a reddish white spot appears where the boil was, you shall go to the priest. The priest shall examine you, and if the spot seems to be deeper than the surrounding skin, and the hairs in it have turned white, he shall pronounce you unclean. It is a dreaded skin disease that has started in the boil. But if the priest examines it and finds that the hairs in it have not turned white, and that it is not deeper than the surrounding skin, but is light in color, the priest shall isolate you for 7 days. If the spot spreads, the priest shall pronounce you unclean. You are deceased. But if it remains unchanged and does not spread, it is only the scar left from the boil, and the priest shall pronounce you ritually clean. In case any of you have been burned, if the raw flesh becomes white or reddish white, the priest shall examine you. If the hairs in the spot have turned white, and it appears deeper than the surrounding skin, it is a dreaded skin disease that has started in the burn, and the priest shall pronounce you unclean. But if the hairs in it have turned white, and it is not deeper than the surrounding skin, but is light in color, the priest shall isolate you for 7 days. The priest shall examine you again on the 7th day, and if it is spreading, it is a dreaded skin disease, and the priest shall pronounce you unclean. But if the spot remains unchanged and does not spread and is light in color, it is not a dreaded skin disease. The priest shall pronounce you ritually clean, because it is only a scar from the burn. When any of you, male or female, have a sore on your head or chin, the priest shall examine it. If it seems to be deeper than the surrounding skin, and the hairs in it are yellowish and thin, it is a dreaded skin disease, and he shall pronounce you unclean. If, when the priest examines you, the sore does not appear to be deeper than the surrounding skin, but there are still no healthy hairs in it, he shall isolate you for 7 days. The priest shall examine the sore again on the 7th day, and if it has not spread and there are no yellowish hairs in it, and it does not seem to be deeper than the surrounding skin, you shall shave the head except the areas around the sore. The priest shall then isolate you for another 7 days. On the 7th day the priest shall again examine the sore, and if it has not spread and does not seem to be deeper than the surrounding skin, he shall pronounce you ritually clean. You shall wash your clothes and you will be clean. But if the sore spreads after you have been pronounced clean, the priest shall examine you again. If the sore has spread, he needs not look for yellowish hairs. You are obviously unclean. But if in the priest's opinion the sore has not spread and healthy hairs are growing in, the sore has healed, and the priest shall pronounce you ritually clean. When any of you, male or female, have white spots on the skin, the priest shall examine you. If the spots are dull white, it is only a blemish that has broken out of the skin. You are ritually clean. But if you lose your hair at the back or the front of your head, this does not make you unclean. But if a reddish white sore appears on the bald spot, it is a dreaded skin disease. The priest shall examine you, and if there is a reddish white sore, the priest shall pronounce you unclean because of the dreaded skin disease on your head. If you have a dreaded skin disease, you must wear torn clothes. Leave your hair uncombed, cover the lower part of your face, and call out, unclean, unclean. You remain unclean as long as you have the disease, and you must live outside the camp away from others. So, what we just read, 45 and 46, a person with a serious skin disease had to perform this strange ritual to protect others from coming too near, because the skin diseases described in Leviticus were highly contagious. It was important that healthy people stay away from those who were infected. 47. Laws concerning mildew. When there is mildew on clothing, whether wool or linen, or on any piece of linen or wool cloth, or on a leather or anything made of leather, it is greenish or reddish. It is spreading mildew and must be shown to the priest. The priest shall examine it, put the object away for 7 days. He shall examine it again on the 7th day, and if the mildew has spread, the object is unclean. The priest shall burn it, because it is spreading mildew, which must be destroyed by fire. But if, when he examines it, the priest finds that the mildew has not spread on the object, he shall order that it be washed and put away for another 7 days. Then he shall examine it, and if the mildew has not changed color, even though it has not spread, it is still unclean. You must burn the object, whether the rot is on the front or the back. But if when the priest examines it again, the mildew has faded, he shall tear it out of the clothing or leather. Then if the mildew reappears, it is spreading again, and the owner shall burn the object. If he washes the object and the spot disappears, he shall wash it again, and it'll be ritually clean. This, then, is the law about mildew on clothing, whether it is wool or linen, or on linen or wool cloth, or on anything made of leather. This is how the decision is made as to whether it is ritually clean or unclean. Now, some people ask, why is this passage in the Bible? So much of what we read in Leviticus is a picture that contrasts life for people in the Old Covenant before Jesus came to earth. With life, life for people in the New Covenant after Jesus came, this picture helps to clarify what life in the New Covenant is like. Today, no matter how good our deeds might be, they are contaminated by sin and are nothing but filthy rags before our holy God. That is from Isaiah 64, verse 6, by the way. So we are all unclean because of sin. But being united with Christ is like putting on new clothes. The righteousness of Christ covers us like new clothes and makes us clean before God. And therefore Jesus, our high priest, looks at us as though we had never been contaminated by sin. It's a beautiful way to look at things. Now let's go to chapter 14. Purification after having skin diseases. The Lord gave Moses the following regulations about the ritual purification of those of you cured of a dreaded skin disease. On the day you are to be pronounced clean, you shall be brought to the priest, and the priest shall take you outside the camp and examine you. If the disease is healed, the priest shall order that 2 ritually clean birds be brought, along with a piece of cedar wood, a red cord, and a sprig of hyssop. Then the priest shall order that one of the birds be destroyed over a clay bowl containing fresh spring water. He shall take the other bird and dip it together with the cedar wood, the red cord, and the hyssop branch, in the blood of the bird that was killed. He shall sprinkle the blood 7 times on the one of you who is to be purified from your skin disease, and then he shall pronounce you clean. He shall let the live bird fly away over the open fields. You shall wash your clothes, shave off all your hair, and take a bath. You will then be ritually clean. You may enter the camp, but you must live outside your tent for 7 days. On the 7th day, you shall again shave your head, your beard, your eyebrows, and all the rest of the hair on your body. You shall wash your clothes and take a bath, and then you'll be ritually clean. On the 8th day, you shall bring 2 male lambs and 1 female lamb, a year old, that are without any defects, 5 pounds of flour mixed with olive oil, and half a pint of olive oil. The priest shall take you and these offerings to the entrance of the tent of the Lord's presence. Then the priest shall take 1 of the male lambs, and together with the half pint of oil, he shall offer it as a repayment offering. He shall present them as a special gift to the Lord for the priest. He shall kill the lamb in the holy place where the animals for the sin offerings and the burnt offerings are killed. He must do this because the repayment offering, like the sin offering, belongs to the priest and is very holy. The priest shall take some of the blood of the lamb and put it on the lobe of the right ear, on the thumb of the right hand, and on the big toe of the right foot of the one you are to be declared ritually clean. The priest shall then take some of the olive oil and pour it in the palm of his own left hand, dip a finger in his right hand in it, and sprinkle some of it 7 times there in the Lord's presence. He shall take some of the oil that is in the palm of his hand and some of the blood of the lamb and put them on the lobe of the right ear, and the thumb of the right hand, and on the big toe of the right foot, of the one of you who is to be declared ritually clean. He shall put the rest of the oil that is in the palm of his hand on your head. In this way he shall perform the ritual of purification. Now, to try to make a little bit of sense of what we just read up to this point in chapter 14, those wanting to be purified after recovering from a skin disease had to present themselves before the priest at the entrance of the tabernacle. Okay? There, right there, the priest would offer the appropriate sacrifices, and the individuals would be declared ceremonially clean. In the New Testament, after Jesus healed a man with leprosy, he instructed him to present himself to the priest to be examined. He also told him to bring the appropriate offering in accordance with this passage. This is, by the way, in Mark chapter 1, verse 40 to 44. Jesus had not yet died for the sins of the world, so he was bridging the gap between the Old Covenant and the New Covenant. As a rabbi, Jesus was following the laws of the Old Covenant. As the Son of God, he was able to heal the man's leprosy. As our new high priest, he is able to declare us healed and clean from sin and its contagiousness, which leads to death, of course. Hold on a second, please. Let me see my notes here. Okay, everything's good. Hold on a second. Okay. Then the priest shall offer the sin offering and perform the ritual of purification. After that, he shall kill the animal for the burnt offering and offer it with the grain offering on the altar. In this way, the priest shall perform the ritual of purification, and you will be ritually clean. If you are poor and cannot afford any more, you shall bring for your purification only one male lamb as your repayment offering, a special gift to the Lord for the priest. You shall bring only 2 pounds of flour mixed with olive oil for a grain offering, and half a pint of olive oil. You shall also bring 2 doves or 2 pigeons, one for the sin offering and one for the burnt offering. On the 8th day of your purification, you shall bring them to the priest at the entrance of the tent. The priest shall take the lamb and the olive oil and present them as a special gift to the Lord for the priest. He shall kill the lamb and take some of the blood and put it on the lobe of your right ear, on the thumb of your right hand, and on the big toe of your right foot. We talked about this before several days ago. What does this mean, to put blood on somebody's right ear, the thumb of the right hand, and the toe of the right foot? It signifies what somebody hears, what somebody does, and what somebody is walking to. What somebody hears, the right lobe of the ear. What somebody does is what's the right thumb. And where somebody is walking to or going to, or which way he's heading, is the right toe. The priest shall pour some of the oil into the palm of his own hand, and with the finger of his right hand sprinkle some of it 7 times there in the Lord's presence. He shall put some of the oil on the same place as he put the blood, on the lobe of the right ear, on the thumb of your right hand, and on the big toe of your right foot. The rest of the oil then in his palm he shall put on your head, and in this way perform the ritual of purification. Then he shall offer one of the doves or pigeons as the sin offering, and the other as the burnt offering with the grain offering. In this way the priest shall perform the ritual of purification. This is a law for those who have a dreaded skin disease, but who cannot afford the normal offering required for his purification. Amen. So let's continue. Let's continue a little bit more. Mildew in houses. The Lord gave Moses and Aaron the following regulations about houses affected by spreading mildew. These were to apply after the people of Israel entered the land of Canaan, which the Lord was going to give them as their possession. If any of you find that the Lord has sent mildew on your house, Then you must go and tell the priest about it. Now, so we read about mildew, right? Why was mildew so dangerous? It could spread rapidly and would make clothing or a house either unsound or a health risk for anyone associated with it. It was therefore important to check its spread as soon as possible. In extreme cases, if a fungus had done enough damage, the clothing was to be burned or even the house destroyed. Those specific cleansing procedures designated for affecting clothing and buildings were fully required by the law. You know, you can't tell somebody that has mold in their house to just pour bleach over it or to wash it with your hand. It just doesn't work. Anyways, we shall continue. Um, let's see. Yeah, 36. The priest shall order everything to be moved out of the house before he goes to examine the mildew. Otherwise, everything in the house will be declared unclean. Then he shall go to the house and examine the mildew. If there are greenish or reddish spots that appear to be eating into the wall, he shall leave the house and lock it up for 7 days. On the 7th day he shall return and examine it again. If the mildew has spread, he shall order that the stones on which the mildew is found be removed and thrown into some unclean place outside the city. After that, he must have all the interior walls scraped and the plaster dumped in an unclean place outside the city. Then other stones are to be used to replace the stones that were removed, and new plaster will be used to cover the walls. If the mildew breaks out again in the house after the stones have been removed and the house has been scraped and plastered, the priest shall go and look. If it has spread, the house is unclean. It must be torn down, and its stones, its wood, and all its plaster must be carried out of the city to an unclean place. Any who enter the house while it is locked up will be unclean until evening. Any who lie down or eat in the house must wash their clothes. If, when the priest comes to look, the mildew has not reappeared after the house has been replastered, he shall pronounce the house ritually clean, because the mildew has been completely removed. To purify the house, he shall take 2 birds, some cedar wood, a red cord, and a sprig of hyssop. He shall kill one of the birds over a clay bowl containing the fresh spring water. Then he shall take the cedar wood, the hyssop, the red cord, and the live bird, and shall dip them in the blood of the bird that was killed, and in the fresh water. And he shall sprinkle the house 7 times. In this way he shall purify the house with the bird's blood, the fresh water, the live bird, the cedar wood, the hyssop, and the red cord. Then he shall let the live bird fly away outside the city over the open fields. In this way he shall perform the ritual of purification for the house, and it will be ritually clean. These are the laws about dreaded skin diseases, sores, boils, and inflammations, and about mildew in clothes or houses. These laws determine when something is clean and when it is unclean. So these instructions for purifying a house that we just read contaminated with mildew, which could lead to a contagious disease, would not be followed for over 40 years. After giving of these laws, the Israelites wandered in the desert and did not own any homes. Yet these instructions were carefully preserved as something important for their future. Similarly, we might struggle to see the point of certain passages of Scripture when we are younger, only to find them enormously helpful when we are older. And last but not least, God told the Israelites how to diagnose serious skin diseases and mildew so they could avoid them or treat them. These laws were given to the people's health and protection. They helped the Israelites avoid diseases that were serious threats in that time and place. Although they would not have known the medical reasons for some of these laws, their obedience to them made them healthier. So, although many of God's laws must have seemed strange to the Israelites, these laws help them avoid not only physical contamination, but also moral and spiritual infection. In case anybody's wondering. Okay, let's continue with chapter 15. Unclean bodily discharges. The Lord gave Moses and Aaron the following regulations for the people of Israel. When any man has a discharge from his penis, the discharge is unclean. Whether the penis runs with it or is stopped by it, any bed on which he sits or lies is unclean. Anyone who touches his bed or sits on anything the man has sat on must wash his clothes and take a bath, and he remains unclean until evening. Anyone who touches a man with a discharge must wash his clothes and take a bath, and he remains unclean until evening. If the man with the discharge spits on anyone who is ritually clean, that person must wash his clothes and take a bath, and he remains unclean until evening. Any saddle or seat on which the man with the discharge sits is unclean. Anyone who touches anything on which the man sat is unclean until evening. Anyone who carries anything on which the man sat must wash his clothes and take a bath, and he remains unclean until evening. If a man who has a discharge touches one of you without first having washed his hands, you must wash your clothes and take a bath, and you remain unclean until evening. Any clay pot that the man touches must be broken, and any wooden bowl that he touches must be washed. After the man is cured of his discharge, he must wait 7 days and then wash his clothes and take a bath in fresh spring water, and he will be ritually clean. On the 8th day he shall take 2 doves or 2 pigeons to the entrance of the tent of the Lord's presence and give them to the priest. The priest shall offer one of them as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering. In this way he will perform the ritual of purification for the man. When a man has an emission of semen, he must bathe his whole body, and he remains unclean until evening. Anything made of cloth or leather on which the semen falls must be washed, and it remains unclean until evening. After intercourse, both the man and the woman must take a bath, and they remain unclean until evening. Now, what we just read, by the way, these verses in this section are not implying that sex is dirty or disgusting. God created sex for the enjoyment of a married couple and the continuation of the human race. And 3, the preservation of the covenant community. Everything must be seen and done with a view towards God's love and ultimate authority. Sex is not separate from spirituality or God's care. God is concerned about our sexual habits. He designed it. He designed it as a wonderfully complex thing that unifies His creation, and this includes bodies, sexuality. We tend to try to separate our physical and spiritual lives, but they are inseparably intertwined. God must be Lord over our whole selves, including our private lives. In what ways, we acknowledge our relationships and everything, God has to be aware of everything, and He is. He is. 19. When a woman has her monthly period, she remains unclean for 7 days. Anyone who touches her is unclean until evening. Anything on which she sits or lies during her monthly period is unclean. Any who touch her bed or anything on which she has sat must wash her clothes and take a bath, and they remain unclean until evening. If a man has relations with her during her period, he is contaminated by her impurity and remains unclean for 7 days, and any bed on which he lies is unclean. If a woman has a flow of blood for several days outside her monthly period, or if her flow continues beyond her regular period, she remains unclean as long as the flow continues, just as she is during her monthly period. Any bed on which she lies and anything on which she sits during this time is unclean. Any whom touch them are unclean and must wash their clothes and take a bath. They remain unclean until evening. After her flow stops, she must wait 7 days, and then she'll be ritually clean. On the 8th day she shall take 2 doves and 2 pigeons to the priest at the entrance of the tent of the Lord's presence. The priest shall offer one of them as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering. And in this way he will perform the ritual of purification for her. The Lord told Moses to warn the people of Israel about their uncleanness, and that they would not defile the tent of his presence, which was in the middle of the camp. If they did, they would be destroyed. These are the regulations about a man who has a discharge or an emission of semen, a woman during her monthly period, or a man who has relations with a woman who is ritually unclean. Amen. Now, let's see. What do we read? 32, 32, 33. Yeah, God is concerned about health. I mean, he upholds the dignity of the person, the dignity of the body, and the dignity of the the sexual experience, if you will. His commands call the people to avoid unhealthy practices and promotes healthy ones with practical instructions. Washing was a God-directed means to maintain physical health. Acts of purification or cleansing were God-directed means to preserve spiritual dignity. So it's a form of keeping yourself clean. There's a phrase that is not in the Bible, but cleanliness is next to godliness. I guess that's what we can get out of these verses here. Let me see. Yeah, let's read chapter 16. We're done with the skin diseases and all this stuff, anyways. I know like I said, it's a couple of dreadful chapters, but it implies a lot of knowledge, all the things that people had to do back in the day, just to be clean, all the things they had to do. Chapter 16, the Day of Atonement. The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the 2 sons of Aaron, who were killed when they offered unholy fire to the Lord. He said, "Tell your brother Aaron that only at the proper time is he to go behind the curtain in the most holy place, because that is where I appear in a cloud above the lid on the covenant box." Remember I was telling you about the Ark of the Covenant? How there's a little circle on top called the mercy seat, right? So that is, and I told you there's like the glory of God, which is like a little ball, like a little cloud that floats above the mercy seat, and which is flanked by the 2 cherubim. That's the glory of the Lord right here. Where I appear in a cloud above the lid of the covenant box. If he disobeys, he will be destroyed. He may enter the most holy place only after he has brought a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. Now remember, this is a Day of Atonement. This is once a year only. Then the Lord gave the following instructions. Before Aaron goes into the most holy place, he must take a bath and put on the priestly garments, the linen robe and shorts, the belt and the turban. The community of Israel shall give Aaron 2 male goats for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall offer a bull as a sacrifice to take away his own sins and those of his family. Then he shall take the 2 goats to the entrance of the tent of the Lord's presence. There he shall draw lots. Now let me pause for a second. I know this is like, it goes one ear out the other. It's just, what's all these goats, lambs, bulls, and offerings and sacrifices and this, sin offerings, burnt offerings? This is too much, Rudy. We're getting to the end of this part here, But there's a reason why I want you to mention these two goats here. What's going to happen to one of the goats? It's a phrase that we use nowadays. When I'll explain to you, but it's just do your best to pay attention. Don't try. Do your best to pay attention. It will be, just pay attention to what happens to the two goats, one of them. Okay. Then he shall take the two goats to the entrance of the tent of the Lord's presence. There he shall draw lots using the two stones, one marked for the Lord and the other for Azazel. Okay. Aaron shall sacrifice the goat chosen by lot for the Lord and offer it as a sin offering. The goat chosen for Azazel shall be presented alive to the Lord and sent off into the desert to Azazel in order to take away the sins of the people. When Aaron sacrificed the bull as a sin offering for himself and his family, he shall take a fire pan full of burning coals from the altar and 2 handfuls of fine incense, and bring them into the most holy place. There in the Lord's presence he shall put the incense on the fire, and the smoke of the incense will hide the lid of the covenant box, so that he will not see it and die. He shall take some of the bull's blood, and with his finger sprinkle it on the front of the lid, and then sprinkle some of it 7 times in front of the covenant box. Okay, so let's see. Let me read a little bit more. 15. After that, he shall kill the goat for the sin offering for the people, bring its blood into the most holy place, and sprinkle it on the lid and then in front of the covenant box, as he did with the bull's blood. In this way, he will perform the ritual to purify the most holy place from the uncleanness of the people of Israel and from all their sins. He must do this to the tent because it stands in the middle of the camp, which is ritually unclean. From the time Aaron entered the most holy place to perform the ritual of purification until he comes out, there must be no one in the tent. When he has performed the ritual for himself, his family, and the whole community, he must then go out to the altar for burnt offerings and purify it. He must take some of the bull's blood and some of the goat's blood, and put it all over the projections at the corners of the altar. With his finger he must sprinkle some of the blood on the altar 7 times. In this way he is to purify it from the sins of the people of Israel and make it holy. Now, Aaron had to spend hours preparing himself to meet God. But we can approach God anytime now. What a privilege. Think about that for a second. What a privilege that we don't have to do all these things to approach God. We are offered easier access to God than even the high priests of the Old Testament times had. Still, we must never forget that God is holy, nor let his privilege cause us to approach him carelessly. The way to God has been opened to us by Christ, but easy access to God does not eliminate our need to prepare our heart as we draw near to him in prayer. Now, this event with the 2 goats occurred on the Day of Atonement. The 2 goats represented the 2 ways God was dealing with the Israelites' sin. He was forgiving their sin through the first goat, which was sacrificed. And 2, he was removing their guilt through the second goat, the scapegoat. You ever heard that phrase before? Scapegoat? This is where it comes from. So he was removing the guilt of the community through the scapegoat, the second goat, which was sent into the wilderness. The same ritual had to be repeated every year. Jesus Christ's death replaced the system once and for all. We can have our sins forgiven and guilt removed by placing our trust in Christ. So, interesting story, right? It really truly is. It's really because this is where the phrase scapegoat comes from. Let's read about this and we'll be done. When Aaron had finished performing the ritual to purify the most holy place, the rest of the tent of the Lord's presence, and the altar, he shall present to the Lord the live goat, chosen for Azazel. He shall put both of his hands on the goat's head and confess over it all the evils, all the sins, and all the rebellions of the people of Israel, and so transfer them to the goat's head. Then the goat is to be driven off into the desert by someone appointed to do it. The goat will carry all their sins away with him into some uninhabited land. That is the meaning of a scapegoat. Then Aaron shall go into the tent, take off the priestly garments that he had put on before entering the most holy place, and leave them there. He must take a bath in a holy place and put on his own clothes. After that, he shall go out and offer the burnt offering to remove his own sins and those of the people. He shall burn on the altar the fat of the animal for the sin offering. The man who drove the goat into the desert to Azazel must wash his clothes and take a bath before he comes back into the camp. The bull and the goat used for the sin offering, whose blood was brought into the most holy place to take away a sin, shall be carried outside the camp and burned. Skin, meat, and intestines shall all be burned. The one who burns them must wash his clothes and take a bath before he returns to camp. And last couple of paragraphs here. The following regulations are to be observed for all time to come. On the 10th day of the 7th month, the Israelites and the foreigners living among them must fast and must not do any work. On that day, the ritual is to be performed to purify them from all their sins, so that they will be ritually clean. That day is to be a very holy day, one on which they fast and do not work at all. These regulations are to be observed for all time to come. The high priest, properly ordained and consecrated to succeed his father, is to perform the ritual of purification. He shall put on the priestly garments, perform the ritual to purify the most holy place, the rest of the tent of the Lord's presence, the altar, the priests, and all the people of the community. These regulations are to be observed for all time to come. This ritual must be performed once a year to purify the people of Israel from all their sins. So Moses did as the Lord had commanded. So this is called the Day of Atonement. The Day of Atonement. All these things have to take place on that day, and that is the only day of the whole year that the high priest can go into the Lord's presence, which is the Ark of the Covenant. The only time once a year. And this holiday is still celebrated to this day. They call it Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur.